see you again. My name is Shino, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to make a presentation about the doctrinal chart. So can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay, before I start, I would like to share a photo. Ta-da! There's anybody has visited the headquarters of One Buddhism? If you have any chance to visit the headquarters, then you will see this huge bell we called 대벽대종. And there's a doctrinal chart over here. You see, this one is the doctrinal chart. And people say it looks like a turtle. So I researched a turtle a little bit. The left side is an image of a turtle in my mind. Very cute. And the right side is bones of a turtle. I thought a turtle lives in its shell. But as you see this, it is not a shell. It is turtle's spine and its ribs. Its spine and ribs are extended and make a kind of a shell. So if you compare the turtle bones and the doctrinal chart, you will see the center pillar is like a spine. And I also thought it is like a human body. It looks like a Buddhist mental anatomy physiology chart. Just my thought. And there's the Ilwan-sang on the top of the chart. Ilwan, one circle, is the Dharmakaya Buddha, the original source of all things in the universe, the mind seal of all the Buddhas and sages, and the original nature of all sentient beings. The founding master mentioned about the state of Ilwan. It is when my mind is clear and round, calm and tranquil, free from a tendency toward discrimination and a penchant toward attachment. So I think we can read it this way. Ilwan is the Dharmakaya Buddha. It is me when my mind is clear and round, calm and tranquil. And it is me when I don't discriminate and attach to anything. When I am Ilwan, I see all things in the universe have this original source as I do. When I am Ilwan, I am not different with all the Buddhas and sages. When I see all sentient beings with my original nature, I can see them as Ilwan. The founding master mentioned sometimes Ilwan and sometimes Ilwan-sang. So I thought if I can make a metaphor, it would be like, it's me, Shino can. I am that I am, but I'm also Shino. Shino is just a name, but when you call my name Shino, I will answer to you. It's not a perfect example, but that's how I understand. So Ilwan and Ilwan-sang are the same. And I thought why Ilwan-sang is on the top of the doctrinal chart. One of Sotezan's disciples asked, what is the relationship between Ilwan-sang and human beings? The founding master said, Ilwan-sang manifests the mind essence of the Buddha. So our order designated the truth of Ilwan-sang as the paradigm for relating that ultimate truth to our daily lives. And our order elucidated also the two gateways of faith and practice. In other words, to live as 일원상 and to use 일원상 when we use our six senses, the founding master has opened the two gateways. One is the gateway of faith based on retribution and response of cause and effect. And the gateway of practice based on true voidness and marvelous existence. Since we talked about the gateway of practice last week, I'm going to focus on the faith. When I prepared my presentation, I had two questions in my mind. Number one, what do one Buddhist believe? And question number two, how do one Buddhist worship? One Buddhist believed the truth of 일원상. The founding master said, all things are of a single root source. In this regard, the way that is free from arising and ceasing, and the principle of the retribution and response of cause and effect, being mutually grounded on each other, have formed a clear and round framework. It's scripture number 1, prologue. Principle of cause and effect is based on eternity. Without eternity, cause and effect cannot be established. All beings and non-beings are following the truth. I think it is important that one Buddhist faith is not believe a name as an object of worshiping. Rather, we believe the truth of 일원상. The founding master said, the content of 일원상 is the fourfold grace, which means the fourfold grace follow the way of no birth and no death, and the principle of cause and effect. The fourfold grace also shows us the relationship between me and not me, between me and everything but me. So the principle of cause and effect can be the principle of relationships. The founding master said, no matter what we know or not, all relationship between me and the fourfold grace is grace, gratitude, because no one cannot exist even a moment without heaven and earth, parents, fellow beings, and laws. So the founding master uses a different terminology, gratitude, not a charity. Number 11, okay. Among all things in the universe, there's a group which influences us a lot more than any other groups. It is human being. So the founding master brought up the 4 essentials for the human being. It is the 4 ways of Buddha offering to human beings to make them live in a vast and immeasurable paradise. Because I received grace from the fourfold grace, I requite for grace. When I requite grace with the 일원상 mind, it becomes a Buddha offering. To make a Buddha offering, I need to be 일원상. Then, everywhere a Buddha image, every act of Buddha offerings is realized. This Buddha offering and selfless service to the public is the way of worshiping of one Buddhist. I just want to share that one of my Dharma teachers told me, it is the most important to make myself 일원상. So a truthful practitioner never exchanges the vow to become a Buddha with anything. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Yoshino. Thank you so much for that. And then we'll go to Kathy. Thank you. And then we'll move to Kathy.
Thank you, Shino. I just want to thank you so much because my talk will be so different, and it was so lovely to see all the effort that you put into this presentation. And the reason there was a slide that you used that was the Vitruvian. I think it's called the Vitruvian Man in your presentation. And that's actually the living embodiment of sacred geometry, which is the Merkaba. So it's this incredible view of experience, of somebody experiencing this sacredness of kind of like Ilwansong. So it's like a picture of that. And I wanted to give this talk today because I wanted to talk about my experience. And I want to share that with you because the doctrinal chart did not come easy to me. So I would, in the beginning of being at the Dharma Center, I would just do this. I'd open the book and I'd read. And it was like a game. It was wonderful. I still do that, actually. So I just open and read and open and read. And it was really like finding like little bits of treasure, like little collection I could put in my Dharma, invisible Dharma pocket. And I could refer back. I could remember the pages, and it was so fun. And then one day, Reverend Daesun said, he said, I want you to open the book to the doctrinal chart. And my whole body, it just went, oh, because charts, I have such aversion to learning that way. So, but I did it. Open the chart like this. Wonderful, beautiful. I closed the book. I did not want to look at the chart. And so, and I tried like a year into, at least a year. I kept trying to look at the chart. I had an aversion. So I knew I was very resistant and a little obstinate and a little frustrated. So I decided that I was just going to let it go and just practice, just concentrate on my practice until one day when I felt like, and this is the story I want to share with you, I felt like I met the living doctrinal chart. And this just happened on a street, on a regular street that I had traveled many, many, many times before. A very busy road. On that day, I had just gone to my destination every single day, but on that day, I had worn new shoes and I had blisters. So I had to stop. Well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to stop and just kind of breathe into my discomfort so I could continue on. So that's what I did. I stopped. And I just breathed and I looked around at the familiar street. And I looked at the intersection and I saw on the left, there were people waiting to cross the street to the right. And on the right, there were people waiting to cross the street to the left. And the cars were whizzing up and down the road. And there was this brilliant morning sun like ahead in the sky. And at that moment, I wondered, how I hadn't noticed this before. There was so much movement, and then there was so much in that movement, there was stillness. And I'm like, this is the doctrinal chart in front of me. And then the light changed, and people moved left to right and right to left. And I thought, the gateway of faith and the gateway of practice are not two. They're one. They are dependent on each other and in communion with one another. And it was so beautiful. And when the light changed again, and the cars began to move, I heard something in my mind, words I didn't even know that I knew. And I'm sure that I read them so many times, but it just kept going over and over in my mind. And it was the doctrinal chart, being into non-being, non-being into being. I just want to make sure I get it right. Turning and turning in the ultimate. Being and non-being are both void, yet this void is also complete. I think I got it right. So it's over and over again in my mind. And then I heard a woman say, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And I looked at her, and I looked up at the sun that was right over her head, and I thought, that's the L1 song. And I realized that I had tears. My whole face was covered in tears. And I took my hands and I went left hand, right hand. And I looked at my hands and I thought, I'm also the doctrinal chart. We are also this. And we're also Ilwan. And she just stared at me for a minute, looking at my hands. And so I told her, yes, I'm okay. I'm okay. And she smiled. And there was so much beauty in that smile. And I wish that she could see she could see in herself what I saw in that moment. So that was my story and my experience. And it reminds me at the beginning of this order, Master Soda-san, the founding master, that they had just completed the Levy project, this very difficult project. And he overhears some of the disciples. He overhears them say, this was so difficult, but it's going to be so much more difficult to learn the way, to know the way. And he goes, he interrupts them and he says, knowing the way is going to be easier than eating a meal. And he goes, if you don't understand my words, he said, then you need to really listen to me right now. And then when you wake up to the road of practice, then think about this again. So I don't know how long I was there, and I never made it to my meeting that day. I never made it. But I felt like I met the road of practice. So, but here's where, and I probably have like 2 minutes, but here's where it gets a little bit really, really deep, really like full and rich for me. And that was a lovely experience. It was really ordinary. And it was really just a view. It's not about, for me, that wonderful experience. I had to then walk down that road. That was just kind of the beginning of that. We had to walk down that road. I'm going to read a little, not read, but I'm going to just share what I kind of wrote about that. I said what matters is the step that I take in the moment that I'm in. That's what matters for us in our practice. It's in each step where we have the opportunity to see the teacher and the blessing in whatever situation we encounter. We have the choice to create harm or make wise decisions. And we have the ability to see the grace of how we are dependent on all beings and things equally, and also how we are a blessing simultaneously, and we are blessed simultaneously. So this is that gateway of faith that everywhere and practice, gateway of everywhere Buddha image, every act a Buddha offering. But last thing is that of everything I learned through the Won Dharma Center, of everything, the essence and what matters to me is the ground, the road, and that is always going to be sincerity. So all of this we learn in time. All of the details of this gateway and that gateway and the four essentials and the eight, you know, the 8 articles and all of these things that we're going to learn, that's going to be, we're going to apply ourselves with dedication, but it can't happen without sincerity. Because the road is bumpy, and it's sincerity that's going to get us through. It's sincerity that will move our dedication. And Reverend, you say this all the time, and it is my favorite teaching that you give us, that you tell us to have that great wish inside of us, that this is, we are dedicating ourselves for all beings without exception. And for me, it's not about tomorrow's enlightenment. It's not about a goal we're going to reach. It's not about being the master of anything. It's about the sincerity you have in the moment that you're in. And I feel like that's where the gateways, both gateways meet, and how we get to travel down the road. So that's it. Did I go over? No?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for both the presentations and Kathy's, you know, based on your experience, that, you know, that one experience of feeling not just knowing it theoretically, but feeling the doctrinal chart through your experience of, and also seeing that one experience, seeing both gates of faith and practice. And as you mentioned, that underlying importance of sincerity, and also having that strong spiritual vow as a motive force to push us along. That spiritual vow, or that wish, that one wish, is that energy that helps us to really overcome any difficult obstacles in the way. So I want to thank you for that sharing. You didn't go over time. And also, yeah. And also, Shino, thank you so much for your, you know, you prepared that wonderful presentation. You were able to really break it down like into the different parts, which I really appreciated. So seeing the overall picture of what the significance of the doctrinal chart is, and then, you know, saying, okay, well, today I'm just going to focus on the gateway of faith, and then also seeing Iro-San in relationship to myself, and then the relationship to Buddhas and sages and all sentient beings, and then relating the Iro-San to human beings, and which can all be found, you know, which is also explained also in the founding scriptures. But I love the way that you were able to just bring that together, and also the visuals were also really cute. I noticed that a lot of people were starting to chuckle a little bit when you're showing the ribs of the turtle. Brings that to life. So I felt that these were two wonderful presentations, and now I want to open it up to the group, to our community, about, after you heard these two wonderful presentations, any reflections, any connections that you have made to your life or to the readings, or any questions, or something, or even words of encouragement to our presenters. I open the floor. Go ahead, Desi.
I'm still formulating my question, but in the meantime, I just wanted to thank both of you. Thanking you, Shino, for the visuals on the screen, very helpful. And thank you, Kathy, for the mental visuals, which are also extraordinarily helpful. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, and it's funny because are you done, Desi? Yeah, okay. I feel like last week it was kind of the same thing. We had the practical side and the more about the doctrine side, and it's just so helpful to me. And I agree with you, Desi, just hearing Kathy and Shino. So that's why we're here. We're here to absorb both the, the words and the deep understanding, and then the experience of that. And I've been doing a lot of spiritual reading. Maybe some of the rest of you have been doing that too. But one of the quotes that's really stuck with me is that one of the reasons we're in such discord, and this comes from Mother Teresa, is that we forget that we belong to each other. And I feel like that's Master Soto-san's message, that we all belong to each other. We're one and the same. And we hear it from all spiritual leaders, but it's, so it was great. I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Franny?
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you. And it kind of proves the whole concept of practice of one Buddhism, how it was perfect how we put the doctrines into our daily life. And that was just a perfect example. The first talk was very cerebral and it made you think. And then the second talk was the whole purpose of what we're doing and just putting the cerebral into, our head into our heart. And I can't thank you both enough, because it just they both seem to blend together so nicely, putting our head into our heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Franny. And Steve?
Yeah, Shino, as you were talking, it hit me that in the doctrinal chart is the essence in part of the essential dharmas of daily practice. If you look at it, it's maybe slightly worded differently, but a lot of the parts of the essential dharma are there. So both can be good reminders to us on a daily basis of how we should conduct our practice as one Buddhists.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Steve. Matt?
Thank you kindly. Kathy, I was thinking a fair bit, because something, I think it might have been Christine who mentioned like the different ways of looking at things. And I often almost neglect the practical to a fault. But I was thinking about those times that you described, like standing, when you were looking at the road and just that sudden epiphany or clarity. And that's something that I it's almost chase after, trying to find those times. If I could only duplicate that more, I feel like I'd do so much better. Was there anything that you notice, or is there anything you notice when you have those times of just profound learning, like a trigger?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I really, thank you. For me, it's really about the simplest thing, the most ordinary, and what seems to be the most ordinary. So, for example, just our breath. So, if we can, if you want to look at something really extraordinary, when we breathe, our first breath, our first breath, we're sort of given by the universe. We are dependent. It's this amazing sort of acceptance into the world that we start to breathe. And then every moment we breathe out, we are helping the world grow. And then every time we breathe in, we are sustaining our life as well. It was always blessed and always a blessing. And the last thing we do in this life is we give that breath back. It's amazing. So it's always in constant communion. So all of the epiphanies are just like special effects, quite honestly. I mean, yeah, they help to wake us. They help to push us down the road, but it's really about the simple, the everyday, the moments we can catch ourselves when whatever shows up is our teaching, like the isness of that. So the anger, whatever, it's not different or better than, the happy joy. There's going to be so many things down the road. So all of it. For me, it's really about that simple, everyday stuff, which is extraordinary. Yeah, thank you. I hope I helped.
Thank you for that, Kathy. Any other last sharing or questions? Desi?
I did have a question, I guess, just in general. Would either of you, when you were talking about having that initial vow, that spiritual vow, what could you share with me about how you go about making that spiritual vow?
Desi, me or Shino? Both. I think for me, it's just what's deep in my heart and my being. And it's why I breathe. It's why I wake up in the morning. It's why I do anything I do in every moment that I am. And I mean that with every fiber of my being. So in other words, I would say to you that when you see someone succeed, right? When we see someone succeed, when you see someone, we have such joy. We have such like, oh my gosh, that wonderful moment of like, you feel so proud of them and so good for them. And that vow allows that to be every minute of your, what the motivation. So being the mirror for that, and other people's success becomes greater than your own. And I think, and I have to say, prayer is a big part of it for me. So I pray until I'm in tears. My prayer is a huge part of my practice. And it's just about that only, about that vow. So, and it grows. It's like time, right? You're so amazing, Desi. I can't even imagine. I think you innately have this vow. So I think it lives within all of us. I think it's just cultivation of it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. And Shino, you want to share?
Oh, thank you for asking, Desi. Maybe some of you know that Desi is one of our good seeker the way in the Philadelphia temple. So I think she already know the answer to her question. My big wish is to be a Buddha, to be free from all the suffering. And when I look back at my suffering, it's all because of me. It's because I don't use my eyes. Whenever I close my eyes and whenever I open my eyes, I don't listen. When I listen to something, I don't use the Ilwan sound. I don't use my ear with the equanimity mind whenever I listen or not. All the six senses that triggers all the suffering and all the emotional things in my mind. And it's not just about the suffering, but also the very easygoing things. I lose my vow to be a Buddha. I just enjoy this happiness. I just want to enjoy this life and my chocolate, I totally forget my vow.
She loves chocolate.
So,
I second that, yes.
Yeah, I know. Grace, no. So my vow is, please, I'm not gonna lose my Iransang state whenever I use my six senses or not. So yeah, thank you. I just was sharing my vow.
Thank you for the question and thank you for the answers. And I think Isabel also wanted to, it looked like she wanted to add something, no? Isabel? Okay.
Trying to put my microphone on, okay. So Desi, I don't know very much where you are in your practice, but you keep saying that you're a beginner. You don't sound so much like a beginner, but I'll just say that I think that the vow just comes to you at a certain point in your practice. Once you just kind of like more and more wet with the, you know, with the teachings and the practice, and you just hear things over and over again, and they just begin to open up in a way that is only yours, that you can see it in your own way. And I think that as you go along, it's just going to become clear, so don't worry about it. It's there, it's inside of you, it just hasn't come out yet, but it will. So, and to Lee, is that your name? Lee, you were talking about the difference between the intellectual part and Kathy's kind of more emotional experience. And I think that, you know, we have the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain, and we tend to be, you know, more one way than the other one, depending on who we are, our personalities, our makeup. And I think that, you know, you're obviously a very intellectual person. Kathy is a very emotional person. So I think that when you know, you can kind of tone down your intellectual side so that the other one can rise up a little bit. And so more moments of reflection, more moments of contemplation, more moments of silence, of just allowing things to come up, because that's the intuitive part of you. So I think that that might be something that if you put into practice, it might help you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everybody. Oh, Kathy, did you want to respond to that? Is that right?
I just wanted to kind of call Shinho out a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because I want to say that, Isabel, you might not know this, but can I share this? I don't know her by this name really, because it's so hard for me to say, because I know her by the name, her nickname. Can I share it? Your nickname is Shiny. So I'm sharing this because this presentation, I loved this presentation because Shiny, I mean, that's what she does and who she is. She is absolutely, she makes everything shine. Her heart is giant. So I was so grateful to see this, you know, a very analytical and very like, you know, I can't do that. You did it so beautifully. So, but you, yeah, Shiny is your name. So I wanted to share that because Isabel didn't know that. So
sorry, I wasn't talking about her.
Thank you.
Oh, you were talking about Lee, but
I was talking about Desi.
Oh, Desi, but also
no,
I just
China, your talk was incredible.
Yeah, but I wanted to share that about her. Her name's Shiny.
I love
so, okay, so it sounds like everyone's getting names confused. Sorry, but no, it's beautiful. So I'm going to now bring it over to Reverend Yu. Reverend Yu, please enlighten us even more. And thank you all for your wonderful discussion. This is excellent.
Thank you for the great presentation. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. When you look at this chart, our founding master did not have any modern education. Why? Right before the Ilwan-sang, before the canon starts, he opened this one, the chart of the doctrine. For example, let's just think about what was the most impressive of the Reverend Shinogang's talk. What can you remember? I remember the turtle skeleton. Visual things are the most memorable and impressive. Most of the human information comes through our eyes. So when our teaching becomes visualized, it's let's say it's a treasure map to discover our true self or illunsang. It's far easier. If it is not easy, it is hard to apply to our daily life. So as I always say, the manual of electronic machines, whether it's iPhone or washer or dryer, it should be very simple. Yeah, that's very, very important thing. So the Ilwansang, the first class, we contemplate on Ilwansang, who we really are. Why we are not perfectly free or happy? Because we left our true home, our home. In order to restore our true self, then there are two gateways. Gateway of a practice and the gateway of a faith. So Steve or Desi, how many doors do you have in your house? Roughly.
6.
Wow. Okay, Desra, how many?
5.
5, okay. If some doors are blocked, it's closed, it might be a little inconvenient. For example, the door to your bedroom, you cannot open that. You have to sleep in living room. You don't die, but it's a little inconvenient. Gateway is the translation of mun. Mun literally means a door. Door or gate. But they use the word the gateway. But I like this translation, gateway. So some of your door or gate can be closed. What's the big deal? But if we do not use this door, these two gateways, we cannot live in a contented, happy, or liberated life. Very, very essential door. These two doors are. Let me tell you one story. The Christmas Carol on Christmas Eve on television, you have watched many times Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. There are so many movies, there are so many versions. As we know, Scrooge is extremely, how can I say? He's a miser. He's minding himself. And he's a very rich accountant. One Christmas Eve, he retreated himself as usual, to his living room and ate the leftover soup, very cold soup. He thought spending money without any purpose on Christmas Eve is a very stupid thing. So this is what he did for his whole life. Probably that's why he made a lot of money. But when he does a little bit, he saw the vision of his business partner who died several years ago, who was with a lot of chains and shackles. The chain has a lot of some box which is full of gold coin, but those chains, boxes, shackles is too heavy for him to leave to other place. So his friend, that spirit, gave him advice. Since I was your business partner, I'd like to admonish you something. If you die as you have lived, then you will be like me. But there is a chance. Tonight at midnight, you will be visited by the Christmas ghost. Scrooge wake up, and he just thought he ate something wrong, but he has just see some terrible things. He just ignored that. But at the midnight, as we know, he was visited by the first ghost, the ghost of the past. That ghost did not tell anything to Scrooge. That ghost showed exactly how Scrooge lived when he was young. It was a very short moment. In a flashy second, just like a movie, he could see. But he was very surprised. When he was very young, he was not born and raised in a rich family. Without any reason, he was very happy and joyful. Scrooge thought it's very strange, considering his current state of mind. And the next scene was very impressive. He fell in love with one lady, and he thought the lady did not come from the noble family. So marrying her did not help him to make it in this world. So he constantly hesitated to propose to her. And in the meantime, she married to another person, and she's married to another man, and they live very, very happy. So Scrooge thought about, what if I married to that lady? What would be my current life? He thought about that. The ghost of the past disappeared. After a while, ghost of the present visited Scrooge. The ghost of the present brought Scrooge to the world, out of his house. He was very surprised. On Christmas Eve, most of the people looked very, very happy, whether they are rich or poor. And he saw his employee's house. His employee had one disabled child. But even though his employee did not make a lot of money and have a child who needs a special need, they live a very, very happy life. So Scrooge also paused for a moment and thought about his life. And then eventually the ghost of the future visited Scrooge. And that ghost brought him to some graveyard where he saw some tomb, and in front of that tomb there were some group of people. Probably just somebody's funeral is just over. And nobody cried. It's very strange. Everybody thought, I don't feel any sorry that that person died. But just one person said the opposite way. I'm very sorry because I have to get back my money. He borrowed my money, 100 shillings, etc. So Scrooge thought himself, what kind of a person was that? How he could live in that way? But the ghost of the future brought him to the tombstone, which showed who actually died. At night, when Scrooge looked at the tombstone, the inscription very carefully, it says his name. I forgot his family name, Scrooge. He was really shocked. And he would like to live a second chance. So he cried victory, holding the foot of the ghost of the future. He cried very bitterly and give me another chance. And he discovered himself, he was holding his pillow and crying. It was Christmas Eve. It was just a dream. Scrooge was so happy he has another chance. And for many years, Scrooge have a Christmas. For on that particular morning, he felt like he was born again. He was so happy, just like when he was very young. He was happy without any reason. For the first time, he said, Merry Christmas to the people on the street, etc. So this is the story we all know. So I would like to ask you one question to you. Keeping in mind this Scrooge story, let's say Scrooge was born again by the visiting of the three ghosts. And Scrooge came to make more money or not as an accountant from the next day. Surely his mind was changed, but in reality, as an accountant, did he come to make more money, more successful person as an accountant? How do you think? Matt, how do you think?
If I understand the question, was he able to make more money as an accountant?
Yeah, after that Christmas day.
Well, I think he found value outside of just money. And that's, so what the question is, what is a rich man?
Okay. How about Steve?
Well, I mean, he could have made more money as an accountant or as a lender, but I think that what he really gained is that now he saw the Buddha in everyone and started to give Buddha offerings to those around him.
Okay. Okay, very good answer. The point is, it does not matter at all to Scrooge anymore. He became liberated from them. He could make more money, become more successful accountant or not. He did not come to care. He started to enjoy his life. He became very joyful. This, at the first class, I started, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. When Scrooge encountered the truth, he became liberated. How can we expect all our involvement go our way? One of my teachers is a very prominent minister. He travels around in all the countries. So he sometimes asked to the audience, to the member, in order to become more happier, what do you want? They say a lot of things, a nice car, bigger house, better health, etc. Whether people in the underdeveloped countries or developed countries, they have a lot of conditions. They say a lot of things. This will make me happy. So think about that. People, if I ask you, if this is fulfilled, I would become more happier. Well, you can say several things, but I think most of the people in Africa are here and look at us, what we possess, then they could not understand why we are not perfectly happy. External condition is important, but liberation of our mind is as much as our external conditions. So in the Scrooge's case, what is the gateway of practice? Gateway of practice, it is the path to liberation. Liberation. Whether we are poor, rich, we make it in this society or not, we could enjoy ourselves. How? By practicing threefold practice. Threefold practice. That is the thing. So the other gateway, let's come back to the reality. Even, of course, we understand and admit the liberation of our mind is important. But let's suppose you have children who are drug addicts. Do you think you can be happy? Or you can liberate yourself from that situation? Or your spouse is unfaithful? Or you cannot even have the money to pay the rent this month? Liberation of the mind is important, but as much as the important is our external conditions, good environment, two are as much as important. So the gateway of a practice is the way to attain wisdom, the power of the mind. The gateway of a practice is the way to attain blessings. share 하나 띄워봐라. Okay, let me use the share the screen. 그 밑에 복이라는 글자 있거든. 쭉 내려봐. Can you see this a Chinese character?
Yes.
Okay. What does that mean? When you visit Asian countries, on the spoon, on the blanket, you can see this Chinese character everywhere. People love this thing. 복 means blessings or merit. People love blessings and merit, like a good parent, good friend, good brain. One is very handsome, healthy one. There are various kinds of blessings, but the Bible says that God is the source of all blessing. But what does that specifically mean? How can we attain blessing? We harvest exactly what we sow. So you see, the gateway of a faith based on retribution and the response of a cause and effect. By helping others, one Buddhism, we usually call that Buddha offering. Traditional sense of a Buddha offering means offering fruits, money, something precious in front of the Buddha image. But our founding master shifted that paradigm. By helping others materially, spiritually, mentally, etc., you can create blessings and the merits. The merits and the blessings that you receive is what you created, So, for grace, God, let us say, God is one fist, 5 fingers. They are not essentially different. This is Ilwansang, this is for grace. 2 aspects of one reality. So Buddha is not the person who just attained supreme enlightenment. Buddha is the one who accumulated boundless blessings and merits. So in the early morning in Asia, they have some ceremony or some chanting to the Buddha. In the traditional Buddhism, to the Shakyamuni Buddha. 복적, they honor Buddha. 복적적, 해적적, Shakyamuni Buddha. 복적적, 해적적 means the Buddha with a boundless wisdom, and the Buddha with boundless blessings. So Buddha is not the person. Buddha has these two great assets. Which do you think is more important? Franny, which do you think is more important?
Oh, Franny,
When
microphone.
you were just talking, a question came into my head that I was really thinking about. So I think they're both important, but can I ask my question?
Okay.
So I'm looking at the chart, and I think I'm a little confused because the gateway of faith is based on cause and effect, but when you look at the threefold study and the choice and action has to do with choice and karmic action, I was thinking, and I was just thinking that cause and effect has such an important role in that as well.
Mhm.
But so I was just wondering the difference between cause and effect in the threefold study and cause and effect in the gateway of faith.
Okay. We will study that thing in a more detailed and when we study Ilwan Sangvao, but I will give a very one truth has two aspects. Let's just say two aspects. It's a hand, the front side, back side, even though they are essentially the same. So this one truth of Ilwan Sang tentatively have two aspects. The aspect, the truth in stillness, that's more like our true mind, the gateway of a practice. Based on that truth, we would like to restore that Ilwan Sang. The other aspect of truth is the truth in motion. Everything in this universe is constantly changing. But based on what principle? Yin and yang or karmic principle of cause and effect. So it's tentatively divided, but there are many connections. Yeah, let's talk about that. So let me conclude. I think I talked too long. So
Thank you.
wisdom and blessing, which are more important? Our third head Dharma master said, both are important. But if we are enforced to pick up one, what is more primary? Our third head Dharma master said, blessings, merit comes first. If you have a lot of merit and blessings, wisdom follows. So let's keep that in mind. Yeah.
I'd love to hear anybody just report what may have come up in your group. If you can share with the rest of us, that'd be wonderful. It doesn't have to be too detailed, but whatever you can remember, recall, or you feel would be good to share with the rest of us.
We had a beautiful moment from Patty, who was having a difficult moment with her mother, and she might want to say something because we asked her to repeat it in the whole group, so maybe she will. Patty?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had to swap computers because my other system wasn't working well. And I still can't use my camera because it'll freeze up everything. So I recently had something happen, and it has kept me distracted from this lesson. and it was very hard for me to focus on anything else because of the circumstances, and it affects my life in different ways and emotionally, which emotions can sometimes cloud everything else going on. But today I'm feeling better and I'm grateful to be here. But it came to my mind that I was powerless over the events that were taking place. And I was reminded that the universe has its own way, right? And its natural, I can't think of the words now, but you know, everything happens in its own natural way, right? The universe, the spinning earth and the plants growing, everything just happens the way it happens. And we're powerless over that. It just is. And when I realized that, it was easier to come to terms with the situation that my mother's going through and that the family is going to have to deal with. And, you know, at first I felt so powerless and so just not able to do anything, to fix anything, you know, so I was kept out of visiting with her because of the coronavirus. And I went up there on Monday. So of course you get mad at the coronavirus. you get mad at the government because, you know, they come up with these rules for visiting. You know, there's so much emotion involved. But if we can put the emotion aside and look at just the natural events that are happening as they are to happen, you know, it really is only there that I can go because of this practice and because of these readings. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Is there any other group that would like to?
I think Isabel wants to ask a question about the fist and the fingers. I'm calling you out, Isabel.
I had a question for Reverend Yu about what he said all the way at the end, having to do when he said that this is the Irwan and this is the 4-4 grace. I was intrigued by that because I would have thought that this would be the Dharmakaya Buddha and this would be the 4-4 grace, and both of them are Irwan. And I wanted to ask about that.
Dharmakaya Buddha is Ilwan. Ilwan's definition, Ilwan is the word that's coined by our founding master. Dharmakaya Buddha is the concept that has been used by Mahayana Buddhism for thousands of years. So Ilwan is the Dharmakaya Buddha. Ilwan is the Dharmakaya Buddha. But when people ask, what is the content? What is the contents of the Dharmakaya Buddha? Our founding master said it can be manifested like 4-4 grace. It's a 4-4 grace. It as the object of faith. It basically divided into 4 domains.
Thank you.
Any other sharings or questions? Okay.
If you don't mind, can I call Tiffany? I didn't hear her.
Sure. I'd love to hear from Tiffany.
Okay. So in our group, we took the time to figure out what the symbolism is of the Ilwan song in particular. And being that we're all fairly new practitioners, we had a rich conversation about how does it fit into our life? What should we think about it, being that it's an active part of our life? Is it the roof? Is it something internal? What does it really mean? And then it went into a conversation about blessings and merit, and I think it all worked together in our group in terms of the practice calls us to be active and to learn. So everything that we do results in some sort of wisdom. And I happen to mention the Ilwan song. If for me, saying a circle is one way, but saying it's a wheel, meaning it evolves and it moves with you, that it's not an affixed symbol, I thought was very important. As you go through the practice, because as many people have said, they encounter difficult situations, but isn't it comforting to know that you have the option to stay still and to be quiet, but also to not just think of yourself, but to look to your mentors and to look to those who have done this before in the viewpoint that is most helpful, not only to you, but to the world at large. And I might be missing a couple of other things, Brenda and Allison, so feel free to jump in. And then another point, we were thinking of Reverend Yu in terms of his symbolism with the 5 fingers and then going here. And a thought that came was, this can stop things from coming in and penetrating, but this allows like the fourfold grace and the good things to come in, right? So it's almost like a gate in itself as a reminder of inquiry and making choices and action. So it's just a helpful way to kind of process the information. So it was a great group conversation. So thank you, Allison.
Yeah, Brenda or Allison, did you want to add anything to that? I know they were like putting their thumbs up, but please chime in if you have anything to add.
I think that she covered it very well. Thank you so much for being so articulate with it.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the rich conversation.
Great. Okay, and how about James? James is on the West Coast, right?
Yeah.
Which group were you in, James?
I was with Franny and Kathy.
Okay, and how did anything come up with that in that group?
We spent some time contemplating blessings and thinking about our actions and our commitment to practice and how the actions that we are mindfully engaged in ultimately is going to create some karmic response in our lives, and so which leads to wisdom. We're contemplating the blessing and the wisdom teaching as well, and we also spent some time talking about our overall struggles with attachments and kind of living through hardships in life and how difficult it is to find liberation of the mind when there's such tough life events going on around us. So I think that Kathy or Franny would like to share.
I think that was the gist of it. It was very well said, and that's basically what we talked about was how to liberate our mind, especially in our times right now with, for example, 190,000 people dying. And I just said one thing about attachment, and that was that if we have struggles in our life, we should not become attached to them. We should try to let go. But on the same hand, if we overcome those struggles and feel better, we shouldn't really be attached to our achievement either, because attachment is something, I mean, we strive towards non-attachment, towards, I think, both things, success and failure. Is that right, Kathy?
Okay. All right, so I want to thank all of you today for the presentations, discussions. So next week, the topic is going to be on the founding motive of the teaching. And we have Tiffany and Steve who will do the presentations. Thank you for that. Okay, so
Kathy, Reverend Grace, can I lead the meditation next week?
Perfect. That was going to be my next question. Franny, mind to mind? Yes.
Right.
Yes, very great. Okay, so Reverend, did you have anything else to say before we close?
So let's remember two gateways. The gateway of practice. If you would like to have a very free and liberated life, you need to practice very devotedly. That's the gateway of practice, the path to liberation. And if you would like to live a happy life, create a lot of blessings, that's the gateway of faith. Two lessons.
Perfect ending. All right. So everyone have a very good night, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
제임스라는 남자가 you much.